During Isabella's 60th birthday celebration dinner, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. Get up and leave now. Don't say anything to Isabella or Vincent. I chose to obey the message. And that's how I found out the truth about my own family. The very next day, Officer Martinez was knocking on their front door. What's strange is how completely ordinary everything felt right before it unraveled. Like a perfect storm disguised as a celebration. I hadn't expected hugs, warmth, or anything emotional from this gathering. But I definitely wasn't prepared for what actually unfolded. Something that in retrospect feels like the most dangerous kind of trap you could imagine. When life appears normal, when your guard is down and your heart is open, that's exactly when betrayal strikes hardest. That's when it catches you completely off guard, leaving you questioning everything you thought you knew. I walked inside and Isabella immediately called out from the kitchen, her voice bright with excitement. Emma, perfect timing, we're just about to eat. Come on in, sweetheart. Come in. It was as if I had arrived late to some cheerful celebration, which I suppose I had. Vincent rose from his seat when I entered the dining room. A beat too slowly, like he hesitated, unsure whether we were doing hugs now or sticking to our usual polite nods. His smile seemed forced, stretched thin across his face. We nodded, the familiar dance of distant family members trying to bridge years of complicated history. Of course, Sophia was already at the table, lazily scrolling through her phone with that perfected disinterest she still carried like armor. She glanced up just long enough to acknowledge me with a brief nod, then returned to her screen, offering the bare minimum attention required to avoid appearing completely rude. That didn't bother me anymore. I wasn't there to win anyone over or repair old wounds. I was there because it was Isabella's birthday, and despite everything, she was still my mother. The dining room looked different tonight, more formal than usual. The table was beautifully arranged with Isabella's good china, the set she only brought out for special occasions. Candles flickered in crystal holders, casting warm shadows across the white tablecloth. My seat had been pulled out for me, positioned directly across from Sophia. A wine glass waited at my place, filled with cranberry juice, just like always. Not spiked with any holiday flair, not cute or curated, just plain juice. The kind I used to enjoy before my alcohol sensitivity made drinking impossible. Isabella gave me a smile that felt genuine for once, warm and maternal in a way that caught me off guard. You still like cranberry, right? She asked, her eyes bright with hope. I remembered it was always your favorite. I nodded, feeling an unexpected tug of emotion. I hadn't touched the stuff in months, but seeing the care she'd taken, the way she'd remembered this small detail about me, made my chest tighten with something I couldn't quite name. We sat down together, and the atmosphere felt different from our usual strained gatherings. They served the meal with obvious pride. It wasn't basic fare this time. Chicken, roasted potatoes with herbs, and green beans almondine, clearly prepared with love and attention. Vincent actually seemed to be enjoying it for once, not just pretending for politeness' sake. The conversation remained light, but felt more genuine than usual. How's the new position treating you? Isabella asked, leaning forward with genuine interest. I heard through the grapevine that you got promoted again. Still in that beautiful condo downtown? Vincent added, his voice carrying a note of pride I hadn't heard in years. Traffic's been awful lately around there, hasn't it? I responded naturally, finding myself actually smiling. I even chuckled when Sophia brought up a co-worker who got stuck in the revolving doors at her building. And this time it was because it genuinely was funny, not because I was playing a part. For the first time in years, I felt like I was sitting with my family, not performing for them. Midway through Vincent's surprisingly interesting story about renovating their back deck, my phone buzzed in my lap. Without much thought, I glanced down to check it beneath the table. The message was brief and jarring in its urgency. No name attached, no emojis or casual punctuation, just sentences ending in firm periods, like someone desperately trying to sound calm while delivering a warning. Get up and leave now. Don't say anything to Isabella or Vincent. I stared at it, then read it again, my blood growing cold. The room moved on around me, Isabella nodding along to whatever Vincent was saying about deck stain, Sophia actually participating in the conversation for once. All of it playing out like a perfect family birthday dinner, warm and normal and exactly what I'd hoped for. And yet I was being told to leave immediately, as though this beautiful house had suddenly transformed into a danger zone. My hands started trembling slightly as I held the phone. I didn't move. Not right away. A dozen explanations flashed through my head in rapid succession. Maybe it was a prank. a wrong number, a scam, or some kind of social experiment I hadn't agreed to participate in. But deep down, in that place where instinct lives, I knew it wasn't any of those things. The formal tone, the specific instruction, the timing, it all felt too deliberate, too urgent. Somehow I just knew this was real. "I'll be right back," I said, sliding my chair back from the table, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just need to use the bathroom upstairs." No one questioned it. Isabella smiled and waved me away. Vincent continued his story, and Sophia barely looked up from cutting her chicken. Everything still felt normal on the surface, but underneath my heart was racing. I took my phone and walked upstairs, my legs feeling unsteady beneath me. I chose the upstairs bathroom because it had a door that closed all the way and locked without jamming. And because if anyone was going to have a private conversation in this house, it wasn't going to happen where everyone could overhear. I locked the door, sat down heavily on the edge of the bathtub and stared at the message again, reading it over and over. Then, with shaking fingers, I hit call. It rang once, then a familiar voice answered immediately. "Emma, you're still there?" "Who is this?" I whispered, though I was starting to recognize the voice. "It's Ryan." Ryan, Sophia's friend from college, someone I'd met a few times at family gatherings. He'd always seemed like a decent guy, quiet but observant. "What the hell is going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. His voice was low, tight, like he was standing somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, speaking words he didn't want to say. "You need to leave. Right now? Just get up. Walk out. Don't drink anything else. Just go. Don't drink the cranberry juice." My mouth went completely dry. I hadn't touched the juice yet, but I'd been planning to. "Why?" I managed to ask. "I can't explain everything over the phone. Just trust me, please. You're in danger." "What is this?" I asked, my voice cracking slightly. "Why are you even calling me? What's going on down there?" He hesitated and I could hear him breathing heavily. "Please, Emma." "Just get out of there. Don't let them know I called. Not until you tell me why. I need to know." He said something then. Words that changed everything. I didn't respond immediately, couldn't respond. I sat there for a long while after the call ended, feeling the cold from the bathroom tiles seeping through my clothes, long enough to feel my entire world shifting beneath me. Long enough to know I had a choice to make, and I'd already made it. The birthday celebration downstairs suddenly felt like an elaborate trap, and I was the prey who'd walked willingly into it. Being the older sister had never come with a ceremony, just responsibility, quiet, assumed, and seemingly endless. Sophia and I were 3 years apart, but the gap had always felt much wider than that. When we were kids, Isabella and Vincent gave us $5 a week as allowance. I saved mine religiously, putting it in a small jewelry box on my dresser. Sophia didn't. Within a few days, she'd spent it all on candy, stickers, or whatever caught her eye at the corner store. And then she'd look at me with those big, pleading eyes. That's when the grown-ups would step in, their voices gentle but firm. "Sophia doesn't have any money left, but you still do. Don't be selfish, Emma." That's how it started, this pattern that would define our relationship for decades. Not a formal rule, just an expectation that felt as natural as breathing. If I saved, I was expected to share without complaint. If she overspent, I was expected to fix it without question. It was framed as sisterly love, as family responsibility, as the right thing to do. In high school, I got my first part-time job. Just a couple of weekends at a local pharmacy, enough to buy my own clothes without having to ask for money or justify every purchase. Sophia didn't work. She was younger, and no one expected her to contribute financially. But if she wanted anything extra, anything beyond what Isabella and Vincent provided, guess who got the gentle nudge? "Sophia really wants to see that new movie with her friends. She doesn't have her own money yet, but you do." They still covered all the essentials. Her food, clothing, school supplies, but anything fun, anything special somehow became my responsibility. And I paid it every time because I loved her and because saying no felt impossible in our family. When I left for college, studying finance and working toward my degree, things calmed down significantly. I was busy, mostly broke despite my part-time jobs, and 2 states away from the daily requests. Sophia was still in high school, and for a while, it felt like I'd finally bought myself some breathing space. I could focus on my studies, build my own life, make decisions without considering her needs first. Then I graduated and landed my first real job as a junior financial analyst. Entry-level pay, basic benefits, barely enough to cover my student loan payments and rent in the city. But to Isabella and Vincent, it might as well have been a lottery win. The requests started slow, almost apologetic at first. Could you help with Sophia's college enrollment deposit? You know how expensive everything is these days. She's just so stressed about the finances. Sophia had started college studying business and finance, following somewhat in my footsteps, though she approached it with far less discipline than I had. She didn't work during school, didn't create a budget, didn't ask me directly for help. That was always the pattern that frustrated me most. She'd ask Isabella and Vincent, and they'd ask me, creating this buffer that made it harder for me to say no. And at first, I said yes because I thought now that I was earning a real salary, helping would feel lighter, more manageable. It didn't. The more my career progressed, the more they expected, and not once did any of my earnings feel truly mine. Then there was my alcohol sensitivity, a medical reality that my family had never fully accepted. In my early 20s, I learned the hard way that my body simply doesn't process alcohol properly. Half a drink and I'm completely incapacitated. Once I blacked out from just 2 sips of wine at a work event, waking up in the hospital with no memory of how I got there. Since then, nothing. Not even champagne at weddings or wine at dinner parties. My family had always known about this condition. I'd explained it multiple times, even brought them documentation from my doctor. But truly accepting it, truly respecting it, was apparently another matter entirely. Come on, Emma, just a little bit. Don't be such a stick in the mud. It's not like you're actually allergic. I'd decline politely. They'd roll their eyes like I was being dramatic or difficult. But it was never really about the drink itself. It was about how easily they dismissed my boundaries, my health, my choices whenever it didn't align with their expectations. A couple of years into my career, after working nights to complete my MBA, I landed a significant promotion to senior analyst. It wasn't just a step forward. It was a genuine leap, with a salary that finally allowed me to breathe financially. I called Isabella and Vincent immediately to share the news, excited to finally have something positive to report. Isabella's response still echoes in my memory. That's wonderful, sweetheart. So, how much are you earning now exactly? Before I could even process the question fully, she continued. Do you think you could support Sophia's semester abroad program? She's absolutely thrilled about the opportunity, and it would mean the world to her. No congratulations, no pride in my achievement, no questions about my happiness or my plans. Just the same routine, ask, expect, move on to the next request. So I made a decision that changed everything between us. I stopped saying yes. There was no dramatic speech about drawing boundaries, no angry confrontation about years of resentment. I just quietly, firmly stopped. No more just this once contributions. No more treating my bank account like a family emergency fund. Maybe I'd still grab Sophia a coffee when we met up, small gestures that felt genuine. But the role of family sponsor was officially retired. And then came the silence, heavy and pointed. No texts, no phone calls, no casual check-ins, just that weighted quiet that somehow felt louder than any argument. Weeks passed without a word from any of them. Then the quiet cracked open with a call that changed everything. Sophia needs help. It's serious this time. They floated a number that made my stomach drop, $12,000. They wouldn't explain why she needed it, wouldn't provide details or context. Only that she needed it desperately, that I could afford it now, that I was her sister, and this was what family did. I refused. They kept pushing, their voices growing more strained, more desperate. So I bypassed them entirely and called Sophia directly. And that's when the truth finally came out, ugly and undeniable. She'd been gambling, not just casually, but seriously, compulsively. She'd lost big, and now she owed money to people who weren't interested in payment plans or excuses. She was working in finance now, had landed a good entry-level position at a respectable firm. Emma, if this gets out, it won't just cost me my job, she said, her voice shaking with genuine fear. It would end my entire career before it even starts. No one in finance hires someone with a gambling problem. If people find out, I'm completely finished. I asked the question I'd been dreading. Has this happened before? She didn't respond, but her silence was answer enough. I could feel years of enabling, years of quick fixes and bailouts. Crystallizing into this moment, I told her flat out with a clarity that surprised even me, no, not this time, not ever again. I've been helping you for as long as I can remember, I said, my voice steady despite the emotion I felt. But this gambling debt, this pattern, I won't cover it. I can't keep fixing problems you create. She called me cold, told me I didn't understand the pressure she was under, the impossible situation she faced. Maybe she was right about the pressure. Or maybe I finally just didn't want to understand anymore. Maybe I was tired of understanding, tired of fixing, tired of being the solution to everyone else's problems. After that conversation, they cut me off completely. 3 long weeks of total silence, no responses to my texts, no returned calls. Then came the slow drift back into contact, a forwarded meme from Vincent, a picture of their renovated deck from Isabella, a TikTok from Sophia with no caption attached, and eventually the invitation that brought me here tonight. We're having a birthday dinner for Mom, just family. We really hope you'll come. No mention of the money I'd refused to give. No apologies for the silent treatment. No acknowledgement of the fight. Just dinner, just family, just Isabella's 60th birthday celebration. I convinced myself they'd accepted my boundaries, that they'd come to terms with where I stood. So when they asked me to join them for this special occasion, I said yes. I thought maybe we could start over, build something healthier. But something about Ryan's voice felt completely wrong, strained and urgent in a way that made my skin crawl. His voice was subdued, almost emotionless, but there was genuine fear buried underneath. "It's the cranberry juice," he said quietly, his words hitting me like a physical blow. "I think they put something in it. Alcohol or maybe something stronger. I'm not completely sure what, but I think they're planning for you to pass out." The bathroom around me felt suddenly claustrophobic. White tile floor gleaming under harsh fluorescent light. The faint whir of a ceiling fan. Distant sounds of laughter and conversation from downstairs. I didn't respond immediately, couldn't find words for what I was hearing. "Why?" I finally managed to ask, though part of me already knew. Another brief silence, then words that shattered everything. "They want to unlock your phone while you're unconscious. Use your fingerprint to access your accounts." My hands were shaking as I reached for the cranberry juice I'd left on the bathroom counter. I picked up the glass, tilted it slightly, and gave it a careful sniff. It smelled exactly like I remembered, sweet and tart and familiar. But underneath that familiar scent, there was something else. Something that didn't belong. "It smells normal," I whispered into the phone. "But I haven't drunk any of it yet." Ryan's relief was audible. "Good. Don't. Not even a sip." I sat there on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the glass in my hands, trying to process what I'd just learned. My own family, the people who'd raised me, who'd sung me happy birthday every year, who'd helped me move into my first apartment, had planned to drug me and steal from me. On Isabella's birthday, during what was supposed to be a celebration of family and love. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated that I felt physically sick. But I also felt something else, something I hadn't expected. A cold, analytical clarity that came from my years in finance, my experience with fraud prevention and risk assessment. If they wanted to play games with my money, they'd picked the wrong target. I knew exactly what they'd overlook, exactly how to turn their plan against them. I went back downstairs carrying the glass carefully, my expression composed despite the storm raging inside me. "Sorry about that," I said, settling back into my chair. "Work call?" They barely looked up, still engaged in their warm family conversation, still playing their parts perfectly. Isabella smiled at me with what looked like genuine maternal love. Vincent raised his own glass in a small toast. "To family," he said warmly. Sophia actually laughed at something Vincent said, the sound bright and genuine. Later, when they were all focused on Isabella opening her birthday gifts, I asked casually, "Was that someone pulling into the driveway?" All 3 of them turned to look toward the front window, craning their necks to see. That's when I quietly slid the glass beneath the table, angled it carefully, and let the juice trickle out onto the carpet in a steady stream. Not the whole thing, that would be too obvious. Just enough to sell the story I was about to perform. The liquid soaked into the carpet quickly, leaving barely a trace. "I'm starting to feel a bit strange," I said, letting my voice sound slightly slurred. "Kind of tired and woozy." Isabella leaned in immediately, her eyes full of what looked like genuine concern, like she was truly worried about my well-being. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" "Yeah," I said, blinking slowly and deliberately. "Just feeling really tired all of a sudden. I think I need to lie down for a minute." None of them hesitated. They helped me to the living room couch like I was precious, like they were loving caretakers instead of calculating thieves. Their concern felt so real, so convincing, that for a moment I almost doubted what Ryan had told me. I lay down carefully, closed my eyes, and tried not to think about how fast my heart was beating with adrenaline and fear. Just breathe evenly, Slowly. Don't flinch, don't react, no matter what they do. The couch cushion was warm and soft under my shoulder. Someone, probably Isabella, draped a throw blanket over my legs with gentle care. And then I heard it. The conversation that confirmed my worst fears. "Is she completely out?" Isabella whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yeah, she's unconscious," Sophia replied, her tone clinical and detached. "Just like you said she would be." "Okay," Vincent said quietly. "Let's do this quickly and get it over with." I heard the sound of my phone being carefully lifted from where I'd placed it on the coffee table. Then something that made my skin crawl, fingers gently taking my hand. My thumb being lifted with careful precision. My skin pressed against the sensor with practiced ease. A pause, then the faint vibration of successful unlock. They'd done this before, I realized with horror. They knew exactly how to handle an unconscious person's biometrics. There was something quietly horrific about the casual coordination, the complete lack of hesitation. The way they just proceeded like this was a normal family activity. "Okay," Sophia whispered, her voice tinged with excitement. "We're in." More tapping, the soft sounds of numbers being entered. Navigation through my apps. "Do you have her routing number?" Vincent asked under his breath. "She has everything saved in her banking app," Sophia replied. "All her accounts, all her information." "How much are we taking?" Isabella asked. And I could hear the greed in her voice. "Not all of it," Vincent said. "Just enough to settle Sophia's debt and leave some extra for the family emergency fund." "Settle what?" I wanted to scream. But I kept my breathing steady, kept my eyes closed. "She won't even realize it's gone," Isabella said confidently. "If the transfer goes through clean, she'll just think she moved money herself and forgot." "I told you," Sophia added, "she always blacks out after any alcohol. We just needed her unconscious long enough to handle the transfers." There it was, spoken aloud with casual cruelty. All three of them together, my entire family, conspiring to rob me while I lay drugged and helpless on their couch. On Isabella's birthday, no less. A tap, a pause, then frustrated muttering. "It's asking for a verification code," Sophia said, her voice tight with irritation. "What kind of code?" Isabella asked. "Two-factor authentication," Sophia muttered. She must have changed her security settings. Vincent cursed under his breath, a soft but angry sound. "Try her investment app." More tapping, more frustrated silence. Same thing. "Everything's locked down tight." They sat in defeated silence for a long moment. Then Isabella sighed heavily. "Just put the phone back where you found it." They did, with the same careful precision they'd used to take it. No apologies to each other. No second-guessing their actions. No discussion of the moral implications. Just resignation that their theft hadn't worked as planned. I waited, giving them time to settle back into their chairs and compose themselves. Then I opened my eyes slowly, sat up with deliberate grogginess, and blinked like someone just waking from an unexpected nap. "Sorry about that," I said, rubbing my temples. "I don't know what happened. I felt like I blacked out completely." They looked at me with expressions I couldn't quite read, somewhere between concern and something darker. "Are you sure you're feeling all right?" Vincent asked, his voice carefully modulated. "Yeah," I said, standing slowly and retrieving my phone. "I think I just need some fresh air." I picked up my phone and held it normally, like nothing had happened, like it hadn't just been used as a weapon against me. "Actually, I think I should head home. I have an early meeting tomorrow." They nodded in unison, no protest. No awkward offers to walk me out or make sure I was safe to drive. Just a soft chorus of thanks for coming to celebrate with us. "Get home safely. Let us know when you make it back." Like we hadn't just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Like they hadn't just tried to rob their own daughter and sister. At the front door, we hugged like we always did. Isabella, Vincent, Sophia, one after another. It wasn't planned or discussed. It just happened out of habit, tradition. The reflex of people who'd been family for 29 years. And as soon as it started, something inside me cracked wide open. Isabella's familiar perfume, Vincent's worn leather jacket, Sophia's soft sweater brushing against my arm. Normal things. Comforting things. And all of them poisoned now by what I knew. I felt it rise in my chest. This crushing weight of loss and betrayal that I didn't know how to carry. "This is the last time," I thought as I held each of them. "This is the last time I'm hugging them. After tonight, we don't come back from this." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I couldn't. Not yet. I stepped back, forced a smile that felt like it might shatter my face. "Thank you for the lovely birthday dinner." I said, my voice steady despite everything. They smiled back, warm and loving and completely false. I opened the door and walked into the night air, leaving behind the only family I'd ever known. I didn't tell them what I knew. I didn't ask what they'd put in the cranberry juice. I didn't confront them about their theft attempt. But before I'd walked out of that bathroom earlier, I'd done exactly what they never counted on. I hadn't blocked them from accessing my phone. I'd made it easy, left the fingerprint access exactly where they expected it to be. What I had changed with my background in financial fraud prevention was my bank security in ways they couldn't possibly understand. I'd added multi-layered two-factor authentication, not the simple kind most people use, but real verification protocols. Something they couldn't fake with just my thumb. So when they tried to transfer my money, the apps would log every attempt, stop every transaction, and create a detailed digital trail of their crimes. And then I'd set up something they never saw coming. I'd activated a background recording app, not some obvious program with red lights or visible notifications. If they'd seen any indication they were being recorded, it wouldn't have worked. But I work in tech, specifically in systems that prevent people from outsmarting security measures. I knew exactly what they'd overlook, exactly which features they wouldn't think to check for. While they were unlocking my phone and attempting to steal from me, they were simultaneously recording themselves committing multiple felonies. Every word, every attempt, every casual discussion of their crime, all of it captured in perfect digital clarity. They thought I was unconscious and helpless. But the truth is, I was 3 steps ahead of them before I'd even sat back down at that birthday table. I drove to the police station with the calm focus of someone completing a necessary task. Not speeding, not shaking with emotion, just steady and determined. I parked in the visitor lot, walked through the front doors, and stood patiently in line behind someone reporting a fender bender. When my turn came, I told the desk sergeant that I needed to report multiple crimes. She asked what kind of crimes. They drugged me and attempted to steal from me using biometric fraud, I said clearly. I have digital evidence of everything. She stopped writing and looked up. Do you know who committed these crimes? Yes, I said without hesitation. My mother Isabella, my father Vincent, and my sister Sophia. That's when her pen stopped moving entirely. They gave me a seat in a quiet interview room with Officer Martinez, who didn't ask irrelevant questions about why I hadn't gone to the hospital or why I seemed so composed. He just listened professionally as I explained the situation. I played the entire audio recording for him, watching his expression grow more serious with each passing minute. He sat through the entire thing before speaking. Do you understand the full scope of what they attempted? Yes, I replied. Conspiracy to commit fraud, biometric identity theft, and administering a controlled substance without consent. I forwarded him all the digital files, walked him through the precise timestamps, and showed him the attempted access logs on my banking applications. He nodded frequently, took detailed notes, and entered everything into their computer system with careful attention. This is extremely serious, he said, his tone grave. I nodded. I know. That's why I'm here. He asked if I felt safe, if I had secure housing, and whether I needed any victim support services. I told him I'd already taken steps to protect myself. It was my first time ever filing a police report, but I didn't feel afraid or uncertain. Not anymore. I felt empowered. 2 days later, my phone started buzzing with frantic messages. 3 voicemails and multiple texts, all before noon. The first was from Isabella, her voice high and strained. Emma, did you actually report your own family to the police? Then came another, what is wrong with you? How could you do this to us? I didn't respond to either. Sophia left a voicemail that I could barely listen to. Her voice sounded tight and shaky, almost unrecognizable. It was just a mistake, Emma. A moment of poor judgment. You're making this so much worse than it needs to be. Vincent called next, and I let that go to voicemail as well. You think the police are going to fix this family? His voice was angry, bitter. You're going to destroy everything we've built. You don't do this to your own people, Emma. I texted back once and only once. You drugged me and tried to steal my money. That's not family. That's multiple felonies. Then I blocked all of them. Every contact, every number, group messages, even emergency bypass options. I changed my phone number the next day, updated my will to remove them entirely, froze my credit reports just as a precaution. I thought cutting all ties would feel painful, would leave me isolated and grieving. Instead, it felt like I could finally breathe freely for the first time in years. They didn't contest the charges when Detective Thompson presented them with the evidence. Not after hearing the audio recording. Not after seeing how the attempted bank access synced perfectly with the timestamps. Not after the detective explained their options clearly. Attempted fraud, biometric misuse, conspiracy to commit theft, administering a substance without consent, all three of them charged together as co-conspirators. The recording contained everything the prosecutor needed. I didn't have to testify or relive the betrayal in court. They received probation sentences 18 months, substantial fines, community service, and a no-contact order that legally prevented them from approaching me. No prison time, but the criminal records would follow them permanently. The stain of what they'd done couldn't be erased or explained away. I never reached out afterward, never asked mutual friends or relatives how they were managing. But information has a way of finding you, especially in families where gossip travels fast. A cousin on Vincent's side mentioned they'd been forced to sell the house, struggling with legal fees and the financial fallout from their criminal charges. No one else in the extended family reached out to me, but I heard their silence loud and clear. As for Sophia, I encountered her once by pure chance at a grocery store on the other side of town. She was working there, wearing a store uniform and stocking shelves in the paper goods aisle. She didn't notice me browsing nearby, or maybe she did and chose to keep her back turned, focusing intently on her work like those paper towels held the secrets of the universe. Her financial career had ended exactly as she'd predicted it would. I didn't approach her, didn't say anything. I simply paid for my groceries and left, feeling nothing but a distant sadness for what could have been. Ryan had disappeared from all their lives shortly after everything came to light. I heard this from a mutual acquaintance, someone who still kept loose tabs on everyone from college. Apparently, he'd moved out of state just a few weeks after the arrests. No forwarding address, no explanations. Some situations don't require lengthy discussions. The truth speaks loudly enough on its own. And me? My life transformed in ways I never expected. No more manipulative texts asking for financial help. No more guilt-laden family group chats. No more emotional blackmail disguised as familial duty. I work at a job I love, sleep peacefully through the night. And when I open my refrigerator, I know that every single item inside was bought by me, for me, with money I earned honestly. I thought severing all family ties would leave me feeling harsh and empty. Instead, it felt like the cleanest, most liberating decision I'd ever made. My life finally belonged to me alone.